3, 2, 1, and welcome back to episode 4 of Chasing the Racing. I'm sat opposite everyone's favourite, the lovable, gobshite, TT Geordie racer, Dom the Bomb Herbertson.
I'm over the moon. I've got loads of titles here, but less of the gobshite, mine young'un. Less of the gobshite, even though it's totally based upon solid fact. So across from me is the lovely, the amazing, the outright, well, he's even taller than me, the gorgeous, world's sexiest maths teacher, Christopher. Is it Christopher? Is your name Christopher? Is it actually Christopher?
Technically it is.
It is Christopher. Oh, we're not going with that. It's Chrissy. Everyone loves you. So it's Chrissy the Rousset Rouse. Here we have it.
Spot on. And we did actually have a guest lined up today, but unfortunately we're rearranging, so we're gonna do that next week.
I will hold me hand up here, mine. No one can see me hold me hand, but that's my fault. Obviously, we've been working class people, and we've been working very hard. Look at all these excuses I'm coming out with. So that's my fault. But the guest, he's an amazing guest, mine, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, and we'll have some great crack next week. But anyway, we've got a good show lined up today. With the news of, it came out today that Richard Cooper is going to be racing at the Northwest 200 this year. So
another come to the flock. Another one's coming to the flock. The man's sport.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the advantages of being light and small on a motorcycle. So sort of a little bit of nerdy sort of physics stuff on that.
He's picking on me for being fat.
And then we had a great suggestion on Twitter this week about the sort of asking about advice for rookies, for people who are going to be starting the racing careers, maybe ready to, the first club race this year, and basically if
getting into the sport, really, isn't it? More than anything.
If we've got any advice on do's and don'ts, obviously we've been there and done it ourselves. So yeah, a little bit of advice on if you are starting club racing this year, which I think will be a really good topic and a really good suggestion.
Definitely.
But
we're here to help. We're here to help people. We're here to help. Try anyway.
But first, Dom, how's your week been?
Hellish, young'un. Honestly, I'm sitting across from you, and by the way, if I stop talking and you hear snoring, you know why. Ran off my feet. We're both busy people, but honestly, my face, I look like a savage panda. Now, there's an image for you. The WWF will be ringing up the show going, you can't be saying that. That's a bit touchy subject.
So have you been doing some fair miles this week?
Oh, I've been up and down the country, picking up engines, picking up bike parts, and then trying to get people to come on board with, I need some help, got the old jaw shaking. But hey, we were down at the North Yorkshire Road Racing Supporters Club. That's right, isn't it?
We are.
Have I not missed an R in there? There's a lot of R's in that title. But no, we had a good bit of crack down there, didn't we, mate?
Aye, last night it was a proper good laugh, and it was nice to be up on stage together. It was just like recording the podcast for half an hour on it.
But there was a lot more judgmental people looking at us and like that guy. Are these two for real? But no, Chrissy turned up in his lovely Chasing the Racing top hat, turned up in me lumberjack gear, and I'm going, well, don't I look like a twat?
Repping the new brand, isn't it? So
got to be done. What about your week, bar? Obviously the great night last week. Last week?
Just steady, really. Nothing exciting to report. But in the world of motorbike racing, the obviously MotoGP test at Sepang this week, which has been quite interesting, seeing all the new liveries. What do you think of the new Yamaha, the Monster Yamaha colours?
I love it. It's more of a stealth look for me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what's just been what I saw today on Facebook was Cal Crutchlow's changed helmet brands.
Ah, yes.
HGC's gone new. He's gone from RI, but he's still got the same look, you know what I mean? Which is like dead distinctive, which is great. But that's something I want to take on board, actually. Because, when you think about the greats back in the day, they were so iconic, the Steve Hislop, Joey Dunlops. You know what I mean? You could spot them from a mile off. And I think Cal Crutchlow's got that design, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's very iconic anyway. But, I've got no idea why I would switch. Probably there's got to be financial reasons.
It's all about the cheddar, young'un.
Yeah, but interesting looking at the times from this week. Obviously, this time of the year they're all bringing the new testing the new equipment, and it you can't really read into the times much because this time of the season, pre-season testing, nobody's really going out there to
risk anything.
Yeah, put anything on the line. But after such a long winter, it's just nice to see bikes back out.
That's
and
it.
Obviously, Marquez has had a shoulder operation over the winter, so he's been out on like a mini bike recently, getting some practice in.
And
but
how's what's his face? Lorenzo, because he's smart. That's what we were talking about in one of the last show, wasn't it?
Aye, so Lorenzo wasn't out, but Marquez, despite his injury, went out and was fastest as per. We've seen Alex Rins was P2, which was a really good showing on the Suzuki.
Bloody hell.
Maverick Vinales third, Tito Rabat up in fourth, which is, again, like you say, you can't really read too much into it, but it's still
it's a confidence builder, and we keep talking about that on this show. You know, you need the confidence there, and if you can leave any form of testing on a high, you know, you got to build on that.
Absolutely. Rossi was sixth. I think the Yamahas they've got a few different engine configurations, and I think that he settled on one, and he's really happy. There was an article on, I think it was Bike Sport News or something, saying he was really happy with, you know, what he's got. He seems a lot happier than this time last year anyway, so, you know, as a massive Rossi fan, that's looking quite promising. Cal Crutchlow was down in P14. I tell you what, I've just seen a picture.
That's that heavy helmet he's wearing, the new one. We're both RI sponsored, by the way, so he shouldn't have changed from RI. RI are great. Idiot.
I tell you what, I've just seen a picture of his ankle. Do you know, after he had that massive 160-mile-an-hour crash at the end of last year?
I think I saw. I thought it was a dinosaur bone.
His ankle was in pieces, and it's been fully reconstructed with rods. And do you know, when you see like the X-rays, it is incredible that you can even ride again, let alone.
Well, it's like
Hutchie's
surgeon.
Time.
You know what I mean? You know, at the end of the day, everyone's got their trade, haven't they? You know, and these surgeons, where the hell did they find them? Because, like you say, that photo was just mush, wasn't it?
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Hutchie should have had his leg cut off ages ago, but it's still, you know, it's looking great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's not like I'm perving through calendars looking at Hutchie's legs, like, but no, at the end of the day, he's still got the bloody thing, which is great.
Absolutely. And other than that, obviously there's been a few new signings. I think the world of road racing.
Yeah, Paul Jordan's hopped on the RC Express Daffabet Devitt bike. Oh, it's a mouthful anyway.
I tell you, you've got no excuses for not getting that right, because you rode for them at the end.
No, so that's why I'm being very careful here, because obviously, you know, they gave me a great opportunity to race at the Ulster. Which round was it? Alton Park with the BSB, and I did obviously the Macau Grand Prix. So I can't thank them guys enough. Paul really gets along with the team, and he's full of confidence for next year. So he's one to watch. And even I tell you what, I just think one for a great year in motorcycle sport. Anyway, I know we keep saying that, but there's no real lull at the moment across all the classes. I think everyone is in for a great spectacle this year. Oh, that was a big word for me, Mike.
It was.
Spectacle. Very nice spectacles turning up.
I tell you what's been quite interesting as well this week. There's a new betting company, Pit Stop Betting, and I mean, I'm not promoting gambling here, but I'll just say it was out on.
Come out the other side of rehab or something here.
The provisional odds have been posted out on Twitter this week for the British Superbikes. So it's interesting to see, you know, who the bookies have got as favourite and at what prices they've got all the different riders. I think there was a few standout surprise sort of pricings in that list. There's a few really, really, really high odds. I think they've got, was it Josh Brooks as favourite for the championship, which I think on paper, you know, you've got Josh.
He's won it before.
He's got the experience. He's on, you know,
back on the Yamahas again. No,
he's on the Ducati.
Man. Well, there we are.
New V4. But it's interesting to see he's more of a favourite than Scott Redden, which.
Well, at the end of the day, he's been out at the European tracks. You know, we talked about that in the first show, you know, when we were all putting this together. But like you say, it's a different discipline, and you're very much at the forefront of this discipline, Chrissy. And you know, it's just, adjusting to your climate, and that's what he's going to do. But he's getting paid a load of cheddar to do it.
Aye.
So let's be honest. Yeah, he will have to perform. He's professional.
I see Glenn Owen's got, I think he's second favourite. So if you stick £3 on Glenn, you'll get £10 back. In betting jargon, is that 10 to 3? So yeah,
I have
10
no
to 3,
idea.
I think.
Should we put the swear jar on? No, that's for a charity. That's for a charity. I'm not going to do that.
There's I think Keith Farmer 25 to 1's a good outside bet there. But I think he's 4 times British champion and he's going in on a good team, good bike. But he'll be full of confidence. So I think
consistent as well. So and that's how you win championships.
Yeah,
isn't it? So
absolutely. I think after this how Taron McKenzie ended the season and obviously staying with the same team. He's 11 to 1, which I think I don't know how the what's it called where you put a bet on each way bet.
Yes,
so if it's top 3 or top 4.
You're a maths teacher. You should know all about this betting crap. Look at them.
So,
I bet you go and play blackjack on a weekend. That's how you're affording your racing, isn't it?
I think Taron McKenzie's quite a good outside bet there. Danny Buchan 14 to 1. So yeah, I mean they're all relatively in the right order, but there probably is a few discrepancies.
Yeah.
I seen obviously Ryan Vickers is going in on the RAF regular reserves Kawasaki, Jake Dixon's ride.
Yes, the Lee Hardy.
Yes, Lee Hardy racing.
What a lovely lad he is, mind. He is a lovely lad.
And I think there's been quite a big hype around Vickers going up after such a dominating performance in Superstock 600. But he's actually went in at 700 to 1. But I think a lot of people stuck up money on him straight away, and his price has dropped to like 100 to 1 straight away.
Right.
So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how everything pans out. And
like every bit of gambling, when the fun stops, stop. Too much telly me. There you go.
Spot on. So looking into our first topic today, so Richard Cooper, obviously with the Bill Bay Suzuki, he's staying in Superstock. Sorry, he's going back to Superstock 1000 this year, racing against myself. He's just announced he's going to be racing at the Northwest 200 this year. With
another thoroughbred contender hitting the ranks at the Northwest 200, because obviously you've got Seeley, who always got. I think he's actually got the outright wins now.
Yes.
Around there.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got Seeley. Glenn Irwin, well, he's in my opinion, to put it blunt, I know he hasn't done the TT, but he is a proper road racer. He's obviously won Macau's. I'm not sure, has he won at the Ulster?
I'm not sure. I think he only did the Ulster 1 year, didn't he?
If he is listening to this, he'll be kicking off. But no, like I'm a big fan of him. He's one of them few people who will say something and back it up.
Aye.
And I think, like, hats off to him, and he's a lovely lad, lad.
He's over the last few years he's been very impressive on the superbike at the Northwest, especially this year on the Ducati. Sort of
with limited time, because obviously the weather is a massive thing around there, is a massive thing. But see, this is the question that we were discussing. We do come up with a plan for these shows, and we do come up with some sort of structure, then we tear it apart. But obviously, at the end of the day, we were discussing, and obviously you'll discuss this amongst yourselves as well. Has the Northwest 200 become, well, a roads BSB? Has it become a short circuit? It's clear, I've been round there, it's not a short circuit. But you think of the names coming through into it now. What's your opinion on it?
I think you definitely got a point there, and I think a lot of the BSB lads see it as, if they are going to go road racing, the Northwest's the first place that you would sort of look to go. I've heard people in the BSB paddock say it's just like a short circuit, like it's not as dangerous as the TT, for instance.
It's a power circuit, without a doubt. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's I think that's where the short circuit discipline comes in so brilliantly. Like when you go to the Ulster and the TT, it's so flowing. Don't get me wrong, you have great flowing tracks in this country as well, but it's that ability to have the sheer nuts on you to get out of a hairpin and just crack the throttle as quick as you can, because it's just such big power straights. It's all about your braking and just trailing, sit the thing up and fire it. And I think you short circuit lads just have got the discipline just to control that.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love watching the Northwest 200. It's a fantastic event. And
the BBC have won it again. They've won the contract, and the
good,
BBC do a cracking job of it. They really do.
Yeah, with the helicopters on board, and I mean, it is a great spectacle. I've never actually been over to watch, but I imagine it'll be fantastic.
Oh, now that you've got your own podcast, I'll be begging you to go, son. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fly you in first class, you and the wife, hand in hand. You won't even have to walk; you'll be carried.
But no, I'm really excited to see how he goes. I personally think he'll surprise a few people. I think, on paper, he's a class act.
Definitely.
And I think, especially with his weight, and he's very good on the brakes.
Sheer power to weight ratio.
I feel like he'll certainly be up there. And with the Northwest, it's very rare that someone shoots off. It's that big pack, and it basically comes down to a bit of
aggression.
Well,
not aggression's the wrong word, but
it is like a short circuit sometimes on the last lap, where it's like a game of chess, playing a game of chess with your life, really, isn't it? Because it's all tactics. And
like slipstream, and you actually don't want, like, lots of people say you don't want to lead on the last lap.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You can see that
exactly. That's it. And I think I tell you what, we're talking about power to weight ratio and everything like that. I met him, and yet again, he's a lovely lad. Like, to put it blunt, in this paddock, there's not many arseholes. You know what I mean? They're a limited
Is
group.
this the road racing?
The road race? No, I think in BSB and everything, I think there is a limited amount of proper bellends in this, but that's life, isn't
I think
it?
that'll have to be a podcast.
Not everyone's cup of tea. I know.
That'll have to be a podcast topic, won't it?
There we are. That's it. But the arseholes, ladies and gentlemen, there you are. I've put a few quid in the swear jar, haven't I? But at the end of the day, that's life, though. Not everyone's each other's cup of tea. But honestly, I met Richard Cooper at Norton's Burnout event, and it was a cracking event. And what a lovely lad! But he is a teeny, tiny person. But he can chuck round a big bike like a stroppy child chucking his teddy bear. It's not a problem to him, and he obviously puts a lot of effort into his sheer strength and being able to perform at that level. But
yeah, absolutely, and I'm sure he'll do his homework, and he's going over there with the build-based team, who are they've ran Mickey D there a long time. They're a very, very experienced team, and he'll be going over there with.
He's not turning up as a privateer, is he?
No, he'll be going with top equipment, and I don't see that there's any reason why. If the weather's bad and he doesn't get many practice laps, that could affect it. But if he gets a good few practice runs,
like you were saying, like about why people are going to it. I think it's a very easy place to learn, but hard to go fast.
Aye.
If you know what I mean, you're not really because it's very coastal and very open. I think that's where, because when I go to a short circuit, I'm looking for braking references, but there's nothing. You know what I mean? You've just got gravel trap, and it's quite hard. So you're relying totally on feeling. When you go to the TT, you've got a lamppost, you've got someone hanging their arse out having a beer. It's dead easy to make those judgments. But at the Northwest, you're combining both. Yeah. Your comfort as well as references.
For example, one of the top lads at the Northwest, what sort of dollar are they looking to, say if they have a good Northwest 200, say a good few podiums, do you have any ideas about the prize money involved?
I don't actually. It's like, well, the TT regs actually openly put the prize fund, and I think it's actually there somewhere at the Northwest, but I don't think at the TT it can actually go all the way down to 20th in the senior prize money. Yeah. But at the Northwest, I believe it only goes down to 10th. But at the end of the day, there is good prize money at it, but not enough for Cooper to turn up and retire on. Aye. But
do you have any rough idea about, say, if a podium in the superbike race?
I'll have to actually do some homework for you next time. Instead of you doing all the homework, I'll have to do some myself. I'll come back to that one.
But I'll be interested. Speaking of the Northwest, I remember watching last year the Super Twin race and watching little Joey Thompson. He's quite local to here, actually. I think
we've got some crack about him today. What day is it?
Wednesday.
Wednesday the 6th, right? I was in the shower and the whole world fell out of that lad's arse, I'm telling you. But anyway, you were talking about a cracking Super Twin race involving him and a very, very good friend of mine.
Yeah, I mean, amazing race to watch that was. And for those that didn't see it, the Super Twin regs, you can basically run any homologated machinery for the twin class. So
what does that mean, though? So you have to have so many of a Pacific bike to make it.
Yeah, so you can't. You can't turn up with a ridiculous race bike, specific race bike,
carbon fiber framed, blah blah. But
if the bikes are homologated, which means anyone can essentially buy them for the roads, so they've got to make so many of them, you can race them. And is it Peyton?
Patton.
Patton.
Patton,
yeah.
Patton made a pattern.
Patton made this unbelievable rocket ship of a bike.
They're great looking.
They're quite expensive. They
look like classic bikes.
They do.
As well as the twin shocks.
I think you can pick them up for like 35-ish.
Plus the VAT.
40, something like that. But when you're looking at the traditional super twin bikes, once you've really tuned them up and you're talking about the engine refreshers and all that, I think you can spend a lot of money on them anyway. But obviously, Joey turned up on one. I think that year he was the only one out on one, or he was the only one out of the front runners anyway.
Yeah, Dunlop was on it for
he got
the TT.
Loads of people got them for the TT, yeah, because they were that fast. But I mean, at the Northwest, when everyone's together, you were watching the onboards, and there was Jerry McWilliams, James Counton,
Adam McLean,
and
Jessup.
Jessup
is a demon round there.
They were all battling, and from the helicopter view, you can sort of see the group of 5 of them or whatever.
And you can see where the money is.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, you just see this pattern pull out, and it must have been going, a good 10 mile an hour faster, and just absolutely rinsed them down the straight. And then just carried on pulling. And then they would catch Joey back up, do him on the brakes. And then it actually turned into a great race because he was doing them on the straights, they were doing them on the bends, and obviously it turned out to. I mean, you talk through the last few corners.
Obviously I was there on the Bob Henderson racing BMW stock foul, and obviously I was so lucky enough to be there and watch it on the big screen with everyone. And we're talking the coastal road with literal thousands of people holding their breath at the same time. Even the seagulls were going, bloody hell, this is immense. Now, obviously, there's Joey. Now, I'm going to get told off for not remembering the names. Anyway, so he was on the far side of the circuit, and like you say, the power of the pattern was just absolutely howling away. And James and McWilliams just reeled it in on there. You could almost see the dust coming off the brake pads, man. James was just a man on a mission. It was just unbelievable. Just reeling them in. And then there was a tight chicane before the final. Anyway, it's a left, right, and then sweeping over on the line. And it's a move. You've made the move prior to that to win the race. Mm-hmm. James Cowan, the absolute legend, and we miss him every day. And but what a move, because it was so aggressive, but yet the cleanest thing you've ever seen in your life. He had the thing fully sideways. Kawasaki, hats off to you, because you made a brilliant slipper clutch. The thing held, didn't hit. He was a mile off him, and just slid it in, and the pair of them made it round the corner, up and over, and he won the race. And it was just absolutely phenomenal, to the point, right, on the evening of that race, he booked a flight to go see his other half, Chloe. He flew home to go see her. But even before that, John McGuinness came out of his motorhome, walked over to James Cowan, shook his hand, and his exact words were, "I've never fucking seen a thing like that in my damn life." And John McGuinness is shaking your hand, going, that was some move.
It was incredible move. That's even on a short circuit with loads of runoff, you would have been like fair play, like that. It would have been unbelievable anywhere, but to do that on the last few corners of the Northwest 200, and it was just it was unbelievable.
Well, it won their race of the year.
Yeah,
damn right, and rightly so. It was just unbelievable.
And I know Joey got a lot of flack off the back of that, because people were watching the race and they want to see a good fair battle. And
to be fair, you get on the fastest bike.
That's where I was going with it.
Yeah.
You can't knock the lad. He's the youngest person to ever be at the Isle of Man TT
newcomer. Yeah,
to be up there battling. I know he had a straight line advantage on the straights, but even so, he was doing a good job to be there. And
at the end,
it's great experience for him. You can't class that performance in the same. For me, you can't class that performance as the same as the other lads.
People
because they were riding harder.
Exactly,
but not taking anything away from him, he did ride well, and like you say, you're gonna ride the best bike that you can ride. It's legal. It's not against the rules.
Exactly.
And everyone else has went to the pattern. So when they went to the
if someone sat me down and said, "Dominic, you've got a choice of that bike, and that bike," I would have got on the pattern. You would have got on the pattern. If someone's got, "This is the fastest bike out there," I don't care who you are. If you want to go win a race, you get the best gear.
Aye.
And Thompson made that decision. And Speaking of decisions,
speaking of Thompson, yeah, go on.
Go on.
But
you tell me. You tell me.
Yeah.
Go on. I want to hear it.
So I just seen on, I think it was Facebook or Twitter or whatever, that he's actually retired from racing.
At the hard old age of 20 summit.
21, I think he is.
21, bless him. It's got a bit on top of him, and he's retired.
Aye. Well, personally, I mean, I read what he wrote on Facebook, and it didn't really read like a retirement to me. It read like he hasn't been able to secure a good competitive ride for this year. And that's basically what I read from it. It wasn't a retirement. It happens all the time in racing, where this time of the year, the top rides go. He feels like he feels like he deserves a top ride, but there's not one available. And for me, that's not retiring, because if another ride comes out, things happen all the time in this game. Things are changing. You can never predict who's going to be where in 6 months. And for me, he's not retiring. It's basically saying that he hasn't got a ride for this year.
That's it. But honestly, the people are fickle on social media. You've got to be so careful, because people read what they want to read. Now, at the end of the day, are you going to go and try and employ someone who's saying they're retired? No, I wouldn't. You know what I mean? I wouldn't go and get an old woodcutter at 60 who says, I've packed in the game, and say, do you want another job? You're going to find someone else who's looking young, like keen and going. Now, it's a sport. It's the best sport in the world, this motorcycle racing. But the word retirement, it's such a strong thing. And I keep going on about this. You've got to be so careful with what you put on. Now, we're all human. We all make mistakes. And he's a young lad. And, hey, I'm preaching for the choir here, when sometimes you're not thinking before you speak. And that was very much his situation. But I tell you what, it was mad. Like, even when I put it on Twitter, and Steve Mercer, get well soon, by the way, you're a total legend, big fan. And he was putting things. Wait, he came to a very valid point. At the end of the day, why don't you go buy your own bike? Then Glenn Irwin, the legend, he got involved, and it became a little bit handbags at dawn over social media. Honestly, I was going to pull over the van this morning with a bag of popcorn and gone, oh, here we go. And it was it's unreal. But hopefully, in my opinion, and that's what we can do on this show, can't we, Chris? You can voice our own opinions. And
that's what it's all about.
Opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, haven't they? But I really hope this is not a publicity stunt for a cry for help, and like, oh, if I say I'm retired, someone's going to go, there you go, son, there's £1 million. Because that is not professional, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Like you say, it's how people read into it. I might be reading into it wrong.
Yeah, well, like I say, I don't know if he's used the word retirement, or whether the
press around
it went with the retirement angle. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how it develops. Obviously, he's a good young talent coming through on the roads.
He's a really fast lad.
And
really is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Was this year's first year at the TT?
No, it would have been
second year. Was it?
Second year there, yeah. Was it Ian Locker? He was with it. Well, the legend that is Ian Locker.
Aye.
That's who got the patents for him, and he was on ZX6s. Really fast ones.
What sort of lap times is Joey doing on Dial Man?
I can't think. See, the homework list you're giving me is getting bigger and bloody bigger here.
What is he like? Is he a 120 man?
I think he is, yeah, which is really good. You know what I mean? He's done the homework. He got flown over because he doesn't have a job, so he can go do these things, can't he? But no, you'll have to find one now that he's retired. You'll have to pay the pension somehow.
I think he started a business.
What's that then?
Doing donuts or something. Like
Donut? I'm in.
Where it's a dessert place. I think he's got like a dessert parlour, I think.
Right,
something like that.
Oh, we'll have to get him on the show.
We'll have to get him on the show.
Bring some donuts, bring some donuts.
But moving on, and it sort of links
Speaking
nicely. It links in nicely with the Northwest 200, because the Northwest 200 is a speed circle, like you were saying. Top speeds. I mean, I think the highest recorded speed was 209 miles an hour. I think.
Is that still held by Jessup, or is that being beat by Glenn?
I'm not sure. I mean, just before this went live on the podcast, I did a little bit of Googling, and the speed traps like on the official timer show like about 200 miles an hour, but the actual fastest speed is obviously a little bit faster than that. So yeah, I think anyway in excess of 200 miles an hour, which is incredible on a road, proper road. yeah, that links nicely to our next topic, which is why is it important to be light and small on a motorcycle. So, I mean, we were talking about the diet last week, getting down to weight. People realise that it's very important, but it's what I was wanting to talk about is the sort of physics, the science behind
definitely
what the reason for that. Your mass, so your weight, has a big effect on your acceleration. So when you think
natural traction action, that's what we're talking about here, aren't we?
So when we're looking at, I mean, can you remember back to school? So in science lessons, you would have done Newton's first law. Newton's laws. So Newton's first law is force is mass times acceleration.
I hope you lot are writing this down, by the way, because I'm not going to remember.
For instance, if you had two motorcycles and they were both producing the same force, the greater the mass is of one, it has a detrimental effect on the acceleration.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, when you're talking about, obviously this is like mega simplifying things and there's lots of other factors.
Which is good for me.
Yeah. But when you're looking actually at top speed, which you don't really get to see on short circuits because the straights like that I race on, you're always accelerating all the way. Even obviously acceleration gets like less and less as you get to the top speed, but you are still accelerating. Where on the road racing side, like say the Northwest 200, you do actually get to like a pretty much a top speed of the motorcycle. And at that point, your mass doesn't really play a pivotal effect. It's actually
thank God for that. Wait till I tell the lads.
It's actually so at that the sort of limiting factor when you flat out at top speed. So you've got the mechanical resistance. So your tires on the tarmac, which isn't.
Yeah.
If you were heavy or if you were heavy or if you weren't, wouldn't make a big difference. But what does make a massive difference at top speed is your aerodynamical resistance. So if you're a big tall lad, or if
like
you've got a big
Cummins.
and you can't get in the bubble very well, or you've got your elbows sticking out, that does play a big effect on your top speed.
Yes, aye.
So
really it doesn't. So it's your shape, not your size.
Well, yeah. So your mass has a big effect on your acceleration, and then your aerodynamics have more of effect when it comes to top speed. Obviously, if you're accelerating faster, you get up to that top speed faster. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting to sort of look at that, and I guess that's a massive advantage that Richard Cooper's going to have when he goes over the Northwest. He's I don't know what he actually weighs, but he's really small.
He's a teeny tiny lad.
He's a small man.
But look at there's Phil Crowe, right? Absolutely howler of a lad, and he defies physics, but he is fast.
Exactly.
He is a very, very fast lad.
Well, if you look, so Phil's a classic example. If you look at Phil, say at the Northwest 200, if you look at the speed trap times, I was actually looking in 2017, and
he's a good engine builder as well, mate. Let's put these facts in.
That's good because you can compare for instance, his bike and say one of the Tygo bikes.
Yeah.
There won't be much in it with the bikes, so we can look at the actual. It makes it a fairer test.
Yes, aye.
And it's on one of those the timing sheets I was looking at, there was 20 miles an hour difference. So I think, like say, Seeley was going through a 200.
But he's a small Smith.
He's a small man. So he was doing 180, which if you if you stood still and someone comes past you 20 miles an hour faster, it doesn't matter how fast you're going around those corners, you're not making that up. And obviously there is, how much speed you carry on at the straight. There is little factors which will play at that by the end of the straight, which would have small effects, but 20 miles an hour is a hell of a lot. And I mean, Croy's eyeing up 130 mile an hour lap at the Isle of Man.
More than capable. He's done the homework and he can do it.
Yeah, he's a great lad.
He's a BMW man.
Yeah, he's a BMW man through and through. And he used to prep my bikes a few years ago when I was racing for Mission Racing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a great bloke, and he used to do a great job.
You wouldn't want to slap off him anyway.
Oh, he's a big fella, isn't he? Big fella. That's it. But moving on. Our next topic is advice for rookies. So rookies going into the sport, we're looking at. So we've got a great question by Matt Sales on Twitter.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
And he basically asked, there's a lot of riders out there that'll be going into this season, the first year racing.
Or even getting in the racing period. You know what I mean?
And he was basically asking for any advice, any do's and don'ts, or any sort of advice on what can we tell them, that maybe mistakes that we've made that hopefully we can tell them and it stops them making the same one. So you can start us off if you got
I was about
any...
to say, who's starting this one off? I'm looking at you going, please answer this. But no, obviously you got to go through the ACU, the Autocycle Union. That's the bog standard. But even before we even get down that route, if you seriously want to get into racing, obviously, it goes without saying, go do a track day first. That is a more safer, I tell you what though, I say safer, you get more hooligans on bleeding track days than you do at race meetings. Don't you? Because then you do get a mix, and, the track day companies do an awesome job of separating the groups. So, if you want to get into racing, it's a sport for everyone. It really is, you know what I mean? So you can go to a track day, you've got your experts, you've got your intermediates and your novices. So obviously you go where your competence is, and the organisers do a good job of separating you. So if you hop in a novice and you're actually on par with like Leon Haslam, they're going to boot you out very, very quickly, aren't they? But no, obviously if you're going to get in a race, and that is a blatantly obvious place to start, and you can build your confidence on track. You've got the whole road to yourself, and you can see what you want to do, your style. When style's got nothing to do with it, by the way. It's how you feel comfortable. It really is that. You've just got to adapt to, going fast, really. And believe it or not, the amount of people that you see down at the pub going, "Oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the fastest man here." You wait till they get on a track. That's when you find out if they can ride a motorcycle. Well, it's one of those.
And I mean, there's loads of clubs in this country, loads of places to start racing, loads of different classes. We've actually got a great guest lined up for the podcast, Zoe Byrne, who's the owner of UK Club Sport.
Oh, she does a very good job.
Yeah, we'll get Zoe on, and she'll maybe give us a more in-depth analysis of what classes to start with, and we can maybe talk about the sort of budgets for running in different classes.
Oh,
and
you could scare yourself talking about budget in this sport, couldn't you? People open the book and go, "Don't tell the wife," and then shut it again.
Yeah. So we'll have a good crack with her in over the next few weeks. But just from I would say my personal experiences and what have you, I would say a great way to start, like you say, is track days is the first sort of port.
Yeah, definitely. Yes,
call, and get familiar with the tracks you're going to be racing on. So if you're going to be racing at Donington, get a few track days in, and it means that when it comes to the racing and there's so much else happening, if you've got that track knowledge and you know where you're going, that sort of takes that factor out of things, which is always a good start.
Just keeping calm.
Also, there's a hell of a lot of onboard laps on YouTube.
Have you got an onboard lap?
I will have for a few different circuits, yeah.
Haribo bikes, Triumphs, 125s, everything.
I mean, when you're preparing to go to the TT, are you in Macau or Ulster, are you watching many onboard laps?
Oh, definitely. I even do that. I've been going there, I think, this will be me 5th year going into the day, and I'm still watching onboards just to pick up tips, and, information and knowledge is key, isn't it? And it's a case, to put it blunt, even now, like I've been to Donington Park once, awesome place, absolutely awesome place. But even now I'm looking at onboards, and it's the best way of doing it. Just to visually see your brain get up the pace.
Yeah,
I know you're sitting there drooling over a coffee, looking at it. I wish I was as quick as Chrissy. But it is a good way of adapting yourself. It really is.
And once you're at that stage, so you've done your track days, you sort of know where you're going. A great way to get started is to go to a club meeting, meet some of the people that are going to be racing maybe in the same class, get familiar with the surroundings, the sort of setup,
the organisers, the feel of the place.
It's one of those things that once you've done it a few times, you get in routines, and you know where you're signing on, when you've got your tyre warmers on, how much fuel you need to be putting in, all the little things that that happen over a race day.
You came up with a really good point. Get with a gang of your class, if you know what I mean. Don't be on a super twin and then sit next to a 1,000 rider. You know what I mean? Obviously, you sometimes need to help each other out, but you came up with a very good point. Go out with a bunch of 600 lads, because they know when to predict when it's going to happen. And obviously at meetings, red flags can happen, the situations can change. It's so high tense. It really is. Like, our local club is the North East Club. It's like a family home to us, isn't it? You turn up, all right, here we go. But like you just said prior, it's important to go to these meetings and get a feel for the place.
Aye. And I guess one of the main things is when you're first starting racing, the most important thing is that you get out and you do some laps, get the experience in. Don't try and set the world on fire your first time out. It doesn't really matter your very first race or your first few race meetings. Nobody's expecting anything, and I would say to get out, get the laps in, and with that experience, you can then start working on different things. But I would definitely say don't try and set the world on fire straight away. And one of the things that you see a lot is people will be fairly off the pace when they're starting.
They're blowing off the cobwebs, really, especially at first meetings.
And people can get very sort of obsessive about suspension settings and this and that. And if I'm honest, you need a sort of base setting somewhere where you're comfortable. Your tire pressure's roughly in the right sort of areas, which you can just go to the tire. The guys that change your wheels, they'll give you a rough idea of where you want to be running your tyre pressures.
The help's always there, yeah.
Yeah, get a sort of setting where you're relatively comfortable, and then the main thing is to learn how to ride the bike. You don't want to be getting all, if you're lapping Donington 15 seconds a lap off the pace, a click of compression or a few turns, a few turns of preload is going to make absolute jack all difference. So, focus on getting your lap times down and relaxing on the bike and getting. There's a lot to learn before you start looking for those extra.
Definitely. You get the flappers, don't you? Thinking, it's this, that, and that. But no, you're totally right. And I think you've come to a very good point there. The sole fact of just stop trying to change it and start learning to ride it, because learning to ride a bad bike fast is more important than just getting on a good bike straight away. What lessons have you learned from that?
Aye.
So you can imagine if you hop on something that's essentially got a rubber band for a rear shock, you know what I mean? And if you can ride that to its limit, imagine what happens when you get on a good bike. You think, bloody hell, this thing wants to turn. You start using your head, but that's in down the line, isn't it? When you start going to race meetings more and more. But
yeah. And one thing when we first started racing, I was very young, so it was very much my dad was like organising things.
Yes,
and sort of I was just sort of helping along, but he sort of oversaw everything. But one thing quite early on in racing, it's very easy to get stressed out, and you're going away. There's a lot to think about. It's dead easy to forget some simple things. So a great little tip is beginning of the season. Get a checklist of all the essential items that you need. Get it laminated and stick it on the back of your van. And it
That's
means
a great idea.
Just before you set off for the race meeting, it's that thing of just tick, 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 tick.
ACU license is so important.
Do you know things like do you still have to wear the dog tags? With your name and things like that, where there's just so much to think about. It is nice just to have a checklist to clear your head.
That's a really good idea. But laminating it.
Aye.
You tell you work in a school. It's great, isn't it? Get the laminator fired up.
I remember, obviously, when I started racing, it was back in 2009, and it was back then. It was the Aprilia Super Teens. So my first ever meeting, I remember turning up Mallory Park doing the ACU. Obviously,
Super Teens, was that straight in the British paddock then?
No. So it was run through Thundersport GB.
That's a high now. Thundersport's no joke, man. That is
my first race, it was televised on Motors TV. So
jumping the deep end.
When you what was that, 13 or something? That's like the best thing ever.
That is wait, at the end of the day, if you look where you are now in your short career, you know what I mean? Like, that's how you do it. And jumping the deep end.
Do you know what? I remember that. I remember the day like it was yesterday. Turning up at Mallory Park. I can even remember the smell of being in the paddock for the first time.
Yes.
And, go and get me. Back then, everyone had to wear nitro leathers. So, like, you went and everyone wore the same leathers. And, so it got fitted up, got all the stickers on because all the bikes looked the same. And going out for my first few laps, and it was just literally the best thing. You have to do, is it your ACU license course thing?
Yeah, now you do, because
Yeah,
obviously
where
to
you
bring it up to British standard of a sport, you've
Mhm.
actually got to do coaching and assessing.
Yeah.
Both me and my dad, Mark Herberton, shout out for the old man. No, we do that through the ACU, which is, it's basic. It's about more awareness of safety
Mhm.
rather than it's about obeying flags. You know, you can fail the course, but it's just about just not taking the mick. Because obviously, when we went racing, you just jumped in the deep end.
Aye.
And at the end of the day, it's simple things like if you stall on the line in a start, you've got to put your hand up.
Mm-hmm.
And you can fail on that. It's a simple fact of you instantly go, just start. But you put your arm up, people can identify the risk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just ironing things in and getting rid of the jitters. And it's a great system to have. Don't get me wrong, it's another day off work and it's getting it done. But it shows who really want to get into racing. Because back then, you know, like years and years ago, my dad used to pay a threepence and pedal his penny farthing down to the shop to get his race license, and he could hop on a superbike and go racing. But now it's red tape world, and you've got to go with it, which is good, because imagine getting your first event and someone hasn't a clue what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
it is important everyone knows the flags, and for everyone's safety, not just the riders, the marshals,
exactly
the medics, everyone. So yeah, it is important.
it is good, and it shows the progression within the sport. You know, you've got to have that in place to make the sport go further, because even before then, it wasn't a recognised British standard sport, which is just obscene. But you've got to jump through these loops to do it, and it's great that it's there to build the sport into the future, because it's much better than football.
And I think once you've got your first few races under your belt, and you sort of get a feel for, you've got your first few race starts, and you understand what it's all about. The best thing you can do is just find someone that's a little bit faster, maybe half a second up the road from you, and you want to, whenever you see them on track or obviously in races, they're your target, and that's a great way, to progress
Rivalries.
through the sport.
You're talking rivalries.
Do you know what? My very first race, I remember it was at Mallory Park, and I remember me and Taryn McKenzie. It was both of our first races, and me, Taryn McKenzie, and Gary Winfield. So do you know Sean?
Oh yes,
Sean Winfield's younger brother. So the three of us. Back then there was 44 super teen lads on the grid, and I qualified like 42nd or something. And
good lad.
they used to do a B race, like a slow race. So from 30th position downwards
was the B race.
Yeah, and I remember like having an absolutely mint battle with, there was me, Taryn, and Gary Winfield like killing each other for like 10th in the B race.
See, that doesn't matter. It doesn't.
All those years later, like it is a bit crazy. But do you know what? It doesn't matter if you're fighting, like you say, doesn't matter if you're fighting for 30th place, 10th place.
It's about the fight.
Place. It's about the fight, and you get the same buzz. To be honest, I would say my favourite years of racing were working my way up through the ranks. So that year of racing, starting right at the back, and each weekend just picking someone that's slightly better than you. They're your target, and you get after them, and you get that the fixation.
What's that
on
saying
them.
you taught me, and it's stuck with us?
Go on, say it.
Oh no, what was it? Yeah, I remember it. Like that was it. Hold on. It's coming back to us. It's like, that's it. It's like you had a coach with you, and you've built up a good relationship, and you've taken on leaps and bounds. But your advice to me was, Dominic, get a bite of the screen, son, and go catch the silly bastard in front. And to be honest, since then, you think you're right. Just go. And I feel like I'm improving, even just after that kick up the arse. Going, I tell you what, just get on with it.
And it is, the best feeling in the world is progression through the ranks. Do you know what? I remember my second race, we went down to Pembury, and I remember
that's a mint circuit. Did that first time?
I've actually got the lap record on a Aprilia.
All right,
125.
massive. Look, all right.
Luckily, the Thundersport stopped going there a few years ago. So because I've got the lap record, I've got it forever.
But it's a plaque in Pembury of Chrissy Rouse's.
And I was battling for something like 20th position, and on the there was like me and two other lads, and on the very last corner, I shot up the inside. It was like a big risky move, but I managed to pull it off. Sat two lads up, and I finished like 18th. And do you know what? I remember going home just grinning ear to ear, and me and my dad just like the best. You know, that to us was just the best thing
That's
ever.
it.
The fact like I'd had the balls, went for it, and got. You know, it means nothing in the scheme of things, 20th or 18th.
No, it doesn't. No,
but back then, when you know, and it's that thing of racing, and it just. The great thing about competing is doesn't matter where you are in the field, you're in your own little races, you're in your own little battles, and
that's if you find out if you want to be in this sport or not.
Yeah.
And that is the definitive point, isn't it? Because you just go, I want to do this, and you just instantly click with this. And if it doesn't click with it, don't do it.
Yeah.
You're just throwing money away at a pointless exercise just to say you go racing motorcycles. You've got to, that expression and that, your face, I'm looking at him now and he's smiling from ear to ear. And that's what you're looking for when you get on a track for the first time, especially racing. And if it doesn't grab you like that, don't even bother. And that's my opinion on it.
I will just say a quick little story from, it was relatively early when I was racing, and me and my dad decided to take me, like his dad, my granddad, just for a little track day down at Cadwell Park. And so it was just a track day, you know, just with a little generator, and we were just cracking on. And I was just about to go out for a session, and all of a sudden, my dad goes, like a panicked look, and he goes, the tyre warmers on. And so he comes running into the motorhome and like looks down, and the tyre warmers are unplugged, and there's a phone charger being plugged in.
Never.
And my granddad was just sat on his phone. He didn't ask or anything. He just unplugged my tyre warmers, plugged his mobile phone in, and was sat on it. And I think my dad went to like say, "What you doing?" And then we ended up just having a right laugh about it.
That is class.
And,
Did you bin it?
No.
Good lad.
Luckily we realised that the tyre warmers are. But if there's a lesson to be taken from that, it's
don't take your granddad racing.
Just be careful with your tyre warmers, because that is make sure your tyre warmers are on before you go out.
Yeah.
I know we're having a laugh about it, but it's dead easy for tyre warmers to fail.
Check again.
Yeah, and it's I even now I take my glove off sometimes and just check my tyre warmers for that peace of mind before I go out.
Psychologically, yeah.
And have you got any more tips to round up from?
No, I think we could sit here all night and pick out little things like flaws, but honestly, I think really, Matt Sale, that was a great question, and thank you for everyone's suggestions for over the Twitter page for what we can discuss, and I think we can keep doing this, can't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really excited about our guest next week.
Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
I'll just say one of the the biggest rising stars in this country,
without a doubt,
and really excited to get a good insight into some exciting things that he's been up to.
And
recently.
He's really patient, because obviously I've turned up that late from work. He's kindly put us back to next week, so can't wait to get him on the show. And you've done a cracking job getting him. So well done, Rousset lad. And
just before we wrap up, we're gonna if you head over to the Twitter page, we're gonna have a little poll on if we think Richard Cooper is gonna be on the podium at this year's Northwest 200. I'm gonna stick me.
There's no pressure. There's no pressure.
There's no pressure from Richard's point of view. But I'm gonna say I think on at least one of the races, Richard will be on the podium, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see him on the top step.
Wait, he's definitely got the talent, but it is such a strong field out there. You think of like the short circuits lads there, and more importantly, the road races there as well. So I think it's a fantastic question for the Twitter. Get voting, and then we'll find out the answer on the next pod.
Excellent. So thanks very much for tonight, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Goodbye.